graduated from Ollie Middle School. Any owls in the house? What are owls? Ain't no owls in there? Not one? What's that?
All right.
Oh, okay, all right. We had another name for it back in my day, but we're not gonna go there.
Oh.
Anyway, I also went to Hastings. I know this is LSIC Ram territory, but I represent the Fighting Bears. But lots of love for A-Leaf as a whole. My sister graduated from LSIC. My mom seems to substitute here all the time, so I just, love A-Leaf. I love being home, so it's a privilege for me to talk to you guys today. What I kind of wanted to start with is just my journey to what brought me here. So after I graduated from Hastings, class of '97, I went to Xavier University in New Orleans. I started pre-med because I had ambitions to be a doctor. Actually was a part of HOSA at Hastings. And as I got into, learning different studies and things of that nature, decided that, I was a better fit for a business profession. So I got my degree in business administration with a concentration on marketing. From there, have worked in sales and marketing for almost the past 20 years. And it's been a great privilege, provided me a very comfortable lifestyle. I'm very grateful for that. But at the same time, I had interest outside of business and marketing, right? As we all do, right? We're not just one thing. We're multifaceted. We have multiple interests. And so I had a lot of interest in the arts and music. I love movies. I love storytelling. And filmmaking, brings all those elements together. So I got the crazy idea, I want to make movies. So, maintaining my full-time job, right? Because we're all here ultimately to learn something and be able to provide for ourselves. So I had to continue to do that. But at the same time, I wanted to pursue that interest. So I took a few classes. I volunteered on whatever set I could be a part of. From there, I was able to hook up with an organization that allowed me to produce some short films, do some PSAs. After that, I got connected with some other filmmakers. We did a YouTube series for a little over a year. We did about 10 different projects there. A few of those were accepted in the film festival, and won a few awards. But ultimately, I wanted to make a full-length film. And so I had the opportunity to meet a lady by the name of Cynthia Reed Wills. She had written a book in the 80s, and it was about her experience integrating an all-white school during the 60s. And what I really liked about her story was that it was told from a child's perspective. So, we've all seen civil rights films in some form or fashion, right? And ultimately, oftentimes, it's about marching, it's about Martin Luther King, and all those things are definitely to be respected and appreciated. But what I liked about her story was it was a child. Like, she had no say in the matter, in the environment she was going into, and it was an unwelcoming environment, and to be totally honest, she didn't want to be there. So I liked that about it, and I also felt like there was a lot of things that we could relate to, even in this current day and age. The fact that she was essentially bullied, I know that's a hot topic, in our current culture, and that's essentially what racism is. Any type of hate or any type of rejection or, abuse of someone ultimately is a form of bullying. And then it was also just about her growing. So all of those things, kind of brought it to life. It was an awesome experience. It was a lot of hard work. And my first film project, not my last, but I had to take a little time off to kind of recalibrate after that. So that's kind of what brings me here with you guys. I got really excited about this project because, it never really occurred to me at this level, filmmaking. It was never even thought in my mind. I enjoyed films. I watched them all the time, memorized all the lines to films, but I never thought about making them myself. And so you guys have a chance to kind of get into the nitty-gritty, kind of deconstruct it. And then, the great thing about what you're doing now is you're being exposed to different things that may be something that you have an interest in long term. So I think it's awesome what you're working on here now. In the earlier classes, just the creative things that the students are coming up with are, inspirational to me. So, I encourage you to do the same. Are there any questions about kind of what I've shared with you so far? No?
Don't be shy, guys.
Yeah. Okay, well, one thing, how do you feel about the project that you're working on now? Is everybody pretty comfortable? No? What's your overall feeling in one word? Okay, so you're a little confused? Is that fair to say? A little lost? Kind of don't know where to start? Okay. So one of the things that we talked about, within stories, even though they're told different ways, they really kind of all follow similar themes, right? And so one of the things in like a screenwriting class that I took, they talked about how pretty much every story has been told, they're just told in different ways, right? And so one example that was given was films about someone trying to get home. There have been countless films about a main character trying to get home. And so one of the first ones that I think about is The Wizard of Oz. Are you guys familiar with that? No, it's a little early, I mean a little older. But ultimately, what's Dorothy trying to do?
Get back to Kansas.
Trying to get back to Kansas. That's the whole point of the film. She got swept up by the twister, sent to a distant land, and she's just trying to get home. And the story ends when she makes it home, right? But can you think of another film that has a similar theme about trying to get home?
I don't know, Fast and Furious, maybe? Take it.
What's that?
Fast and Furious?
Fast and Furious? Are you trying to get home in that one?
I'm not sure. And one of them, maybe.
It's been so many, I can't keep
Yeah.
up. You might be right. That might be one of them.
Yes.
Anybody else?
You got Taken.
Taken. Okay, that's a good one.
You got Saw. I'm a horror fan.
Saw's trying to get home too.
I mean,
I've never seen any of the Saw.
they're trying to get out of this place.
Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to get back home. They don't
Okay. Okay, so that's good, and that's a very good point, right? So you got Wizard of Oz, right, and it's a story about trying to get home, but that's like fantasy. But then you got something like Taken, she's trying to get home, and that's an action film. And then you got something like Saw, it's about trying to get home, and that's horror. So that's really the crux of what you guys are doing there. It's a theme, right? So you got to find that theme and try to apply it to something that you can relate to. One of the other stories we talked about trying to get home was Finding Nemo, right? And he's just trying to get home. So that's the whole point. So with the stories that you guys have, figure out what the theme is, what is trying to be accomplished, the main point that's trying to be satisfied within the film, and relate it to something that you find interesting. Could be horror, it could be suspense, it could be comedy, it could be drama. You get to make it your own, there's no limits. In the class before this, one of the young men was talking about how he kind of wanted to give his film, or his group actually, they wanted to give their film like a kind of an anime, arcade. Have you guys seen Scott Pilgrim? He wanted to give his film that kind of flair, right? So that's the cool thing of what you guys get to do, is you're not relegated, you don't have this confined box that you have to fit in. You get to make it your own and put your own spin on it. And that's always a lot of fun, right? Because you're young, you got lots of thoughts, you got lots of ideas, so you get to, kind of pour it into something like this. Any thoughts or questions that have kind of arisen from what you got so far?
When you're faced with a random piece of text, like the ones we were given,
Okay.
what's your first step in dissecting it?
So I think the biggest thing is kind of what we talked about, like the theme, what's happening here? What is the story about? So you have the cast, right? So it's a guy, and he has a friend offends him, and he takes it personally and seeks revenge, puts him in a cellar, the guy dies.
Yeah, evil guy.
Right, so evil guy. So ultimately it's about maybe revenge, I would say, right? An offense and revenge. So from there, then you're looking at the characters. You know what you want your story to be about. It's about revenge in some form or fashion. And then you have to look at the characters. Now the characters in this story are two men that are friends. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the relational dynamic in your story. It could be two women that are friends. It could be a man and a woman that's a friend. It could be a man and a dog that's a friend. It could be a cat and a dog that are, you know what I'm saying? It's whatever you want to, where you want to take it. So you got your main point, you got your characters, and then from there you're just weaving out the details. And so the biggest thing with the story, they all have a similar format, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning is life the way you know it. Is life calm? Is life regular? It's a regular day. In that situation, I don't know, he's with his friend, but something happens. That's called an inciting event. Something happens that changes everything. So once that is interjected into the story, then that's when you start your adventure. And essentially stories are like a roller coaster ride. You start out, you jump in your seat, and then once that inciting event, they turn on the roller coaster, you start ticking up, and then you go on your ride. And that's all the adventure, all the things that happen. And then towards the end, after there's some sort of resolution to whatever the issue is in your story's case, I guess the resolution is locking this guy in the cellar, you know? But then that's the conclusion. And whatever happens along the way, it changes things. The character is changed by this adventure that they go on. Even like with Taken, right? So it's a regular life, you know, he's got his daughter and she's going on a trip and, you know, everything's love, but then she gets taken. Changes everything. That's when the adventure starts. We're off, right? Every story starts like that. Things are cool, it's a good day, and then a bus hits you, a dog bites you, somebody shoots your dad, whatever. It starts the race, it starts the ride. As long as that's happening, then you're pretty much following the format, beginning, middle, and end. You got your characters, you got your theme. Those are essentially the base elements. And everything that happens along the way should be moving the story forward, right? Does that help?
Yeah.
A little bit? Okay. What else? What else are you thinking?
What do you do to the film that have no end?
That has no end?
There's some films that you watch that doesn't have any end.
Really? What's your story?
Like it's an Indian movie.
So, are you talking about your story or you talking about something else?
It's like a movie.
Okay.
So it's a series, but it doesn't end.
Oh.
It keeps going, keep finding
Well, I mean, even in the series, so you kind of are taking events and having them on a smaller scale. Because even in series, there's a beginning, and a middle, and an end, right? It
Yeah.
starts out some way, something happens in an adventure or chaos, or you know, and then kind of lands,
Yeah.
right? Even it may carry over, whatever happens at the end may carry over to the next episode, but in that instance, the story has been told, you know?
Yeah.
Even though we get to remain with the characters. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that series for the most part are just longer versions of the story, right? We think about like Game of Thrones, you guys watch Game of Thrones? I really don't watch Game of Thrones, but I know enough to be dangerous. I know that it's been on for a long time, and I know that the way it ended may not have necessarily been, you know, what people were looking for, but they ended it, right? There was closure on certain events, and then some events there wasn't closure, which leaves it open for, you know, another series.
Movies take years, like serious years, like a long time to finish. So
What, the film?
yeah, the film.
Did it take me a long time to finish? So it took us probably about 2 years to make it. We spent about a year just on the script development part, and then another 6 months on pre-production, planning it all out, and then it actually only took us about a couple of months to shoot it, and then the editing. So it was about 2 years from start to finish. So yeah, that's probably on the shorter end compared to other projects. It's not so bad. You can always start small. That's a big project, right?
Yeah.
Short films don't take quite as long. They don't take quite as long. The film that I did, it was about the young girl integrating an all-white school in the 60s. Yeah, so that was her event. And in that case with the story, the beginning, she started out, we met her, she was going to an all-black school, she was having, you know, she had friends, life was good, someone dies in her family, her family has to relocate, and in that instance, it's what changes things because then she ends up having to integrate an all-white school. So that's kind of her inciting event, and then everything that happens after that are all the things that take place in her experience. So the bullying that's occurring, you know, her trying to avoid confrontation, she's pushed down the stairs in one instance, she's not telling her mom what's going on, all these things are kind of feeding her. And she went from being kind of a domicile, the first time we see her, she's getting bullied along the way, but by the end of it, she's standing up for herself, and you know, she's realizing that she has to, you know, She has to stand up for herself, yeah. And the truth of the matter with any stories, they're kind of like life, right? That's the way life works. It's an adventure, right? You go to school today, you think, it's gonna be a regular day, and then something happens. So, I don't know, your girlfriend breaks up with you, your boyfriend breaks up with you, you missed the bus, I don't know. All these things, but they lead to other things. You get, you jumped. That's very dramatic, right? That's gonna change some things for you, right? So the stories, for the most part, all they are reflections of life and the kind of experience that we go through in life, and that's what makes it relatable to everyone. That's why we can relate to a story about a fish trying to get home. Even though none of us are fish, we don't live in the sea, but we can relate to, wanting to get to a place, wanting to get back to a place. Like what? What's that? Home Alone, yes, Home Alone. What was it, Home Alone 2?
Yes, he was trying.
He's
Yeah.
trapped in New York.
Yeah.
Same thing, yep, same thing. They all have commonalities. Anything else?
Any questions about your own stories, the stories that you guys have chosen? Any questions?
Like you said, how the themes
Mm-hmm,
usually reflect everyday life and how they all have commonalities.
mm-hmm.
How do you make your story unique? How do you take that common theme of revenge and make it your own?
That's really gonna be influenced by the things that inspire you and that resonate with you. So like I mentioned the young man earlier, he liked the Scott Pilgrim, he liked the anime, he liked the arcade kind of effect. So he could take that story and incorporate those elements and it'd be a whole new story. I don't remember what their story was. They all kind of turn it into one right now. But some of the things that you like. So you mentioned you like horror, right? So I feel like that story is like primed to be horrifying. Because what if he's just not putting him in a cellar? What if he's doing crazy things to him in that cellar, right? Or what if in that cellar, maybe he puts him in a haunted cellar? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's another thing. The cool thing about storytelling is you get to throw in different elements like, what if I do this? Well, what would happen if I did this? What would happen if I introduced a ghost into this story? What would happen if instead of just seeking revenge, he's a serial? You can throw all these elements, things that resonate with you, that you find interesting, or you find intriguing, start peppering it in. We even talked about the fact that they don't necessarily have to be people, they could be animals, right? Because one of the stories is about abandonment, right? It's about a kid whose dad dies. Who has that one?
Right here,
You guys have that one?
Kathleen,
Okay,
right there.
Rice to the Streets of Memphis,
Yeah.
right. So this is about a little boy, right, that he loses his father, and then he goes on this journey to manhood. But, that's also what The Lion King is about. And so that's creative, right? Because it's kind of similar themes, but that's about an animal in a jungle in Africa. You know what I'm saying? So if those are certain things that you find interesting, then you can incorporate those elements, and you get to kind of make it whatever you want. What if you like music? What if this person is a musical artist? If you like sports, what if this person is an athlete? How does something like this impact the athlete? You start asking questions of the character. And I see like on the assignment, the teacher's asking you questions, so she's kind of trying to prime your thinking. But another thing is being able to like find details. The class previously, they started naming their characters. They started talking about attributes. Oh, this lady's a crackhead, and this guy's a drug dealer. When you start getting to the details, then it's like you got a blank page, and as you start putting in the details, you start seeing a picture, and the more details, the clearer it gets. And then, you kind of off, I got a crackhead, and I got a drug dealer, and then what's gonna happen? Oh, the police come in, oh shoot, somebody's gonna get shot. Oh, now it's a rape. You get to go different directions You get to take it on different directions. Think of the ride. I like to think of it as a ride. All movies, you sit in, you buckle in, you about to go on this ride. Sometimes it's a real boring ride, sometimes it's an adventure, sometimes it's a frightening ride, sometimes it's an emotional ride, sometimes it's a comedic ride. You know, it's all a ride of your imagination. And you can go wherever you want. And you guys aren't limited, which is what I think. There's no limitations on what you're doing. So that's pretty cool. Anything else? Thoughts, questions?
How would you like change your event of the story? Like say the story was taken in the 1900s, how would you change it into like a present day?
Ouch, the present day. What's your story?
The Rocking Horse story.
I don't remember what that one was about. Tell me a little something. Is that the lottery?
No, I guess it's like about a woman who married to some guy.
He's like a gambler or something.
I'm barely on the second page, but it was
Okay.
like about like a woman, like they're poor. I didn't really understand it, but it was like a woman that she doesn't really love her children, or
Mhm.
whatever, and they kind of don't have a lot of money. So I haven't really gotten further to it, but
Okay.
I just wanted to know like how would you switch it up like to present?
Well, I mean, as long as the theme, what the story is about remains the same, you could make it any setting. You could take it and you could make it present day, right? So she could be a mother in present day. Whereas maybe it's a rocking horse, maybe it's a bicycle. Start pulling in elements that are current if you wanna make it present day. If you wanna make it a different time period, like Western, the same woman and her family. If you wanna keep those characters, right, 'cause nothing says that they have to remain in this structure. But, you know, I could put them in the West. I put them on a farm in the Wild West. Then they have different tools, you know, they're not necessarily utilizing a rocking horse, or, you know, they may be using a real horse, you know? You just, it's, nothing really changes except for the setting. So just imagine that you're taking those characters, pulling them out of that, and putting them in this environment. Drop them in A-Leaf. Where might they live? Right? Where are the kids going to school in A-Leaf? You know, now you got things like technology that are a part of the story, because that's in our present day. So you wanna bring those things into play. So I did a shorts film, one of the YouTube projects. It was an adaptation of a biblical story called The Neighbor. And essentially The Neighbor is about a guy that gets beaten. In the biblical context, he gets beaten on this road and left for dead, and all these people pass him by, except for the one person that's not even really supposed to interact with that man that's beaten. He's the one that helps him and renders aid to him. That's the biblical context. So this happens like way in, you know, AD, right? AD time frame. So I took that story and made it present day. And so the guy that gets beaten, he becomes this old crotchety man that lives by himself, that doesn't want to talk to anybody. And the guy that ends up helping him is a young man that takes a jog by his house every day, speaks to him, and the guy disregards him, doesn't want to talk to him. They actually have a conversation at some point, and the old crotchety man is like, leave me alone, don't talk to me, get out of my face, get out of my yard. He just, you know, real angry and hungry. But then, the following day, he gets robbed. He gets beat down in his own yard, drug into his own house, his car gets stolen, all his belongings get stolen, and he's left for dead. And who do you think finds him? The young man that's been running by his house every single day that he never wanted to talk to. So it's a very similar story. That young man renders aid and becomes a neighbor. And the whole point of the story is like, who is my neighbor? Who is a neighbor? The person that helps me. The person that looks out for me. That happened in that old story, and it can happen in a modern day story. You just have to think about it within the context of that environment and the different elements. I'm no longer on this, you know, desert road in Jerusalem. Now I'm in a suburban city in my front yard. But similar things happen, it has a similar theme, but it's just in a different time frame. So all you're doing is pulling those characters and dropping them in a new environment. And then you start asking questions. If I take those characters and I drop them here, what could happen? That's really that whole creative process is about asking questions about what could happen. What do I want to happen? Well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Well, I like that. Let's continue down that road. Oh, and then as you start doing that, you'll get more ideas. Oh, what if she says that and he says that and then this happens? Then you start developing a story. Good questions. Good questions.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Bob.
Alright, so we got this story and it's pretty long, like a pretty long story. Like, how can I make it interesting for me if it's not interesting?
If you don't find the story interesting, how can you
Yeah.
make it interesting?
Yeah.
Just try to get to the core of what's it about, or what it's about. There's gonna be a lot of details in this particular story that might not necessarily be relevant to the story that you're telling, but if you can get, again, like the theme, what's the story about? What is this character trying to accomplish? What's the beginning, the middle, and the end? What's happening at the beginning, then what happens in the story that creates some drama, creates that arc, that story arc, and then what happens at the end. And as long as you kind of have an idea of what is taking place there, then you can put in the things that are interesting. But try to glean what the story is about, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So far the best ideas I've heard are from people that are able to kind of summarize the story that they're reading. So you're gonna read the whole story, like you said, it's long, it's got a lot of information, but if you can communicate, this story is about a lady with a rocking horse, and she thinks it's at the races. I kind of read the summary, but I haven't read the whole story.
I think it's about a boy
A boy.
who starts betting. He uses a rocking horse to bet on horses because his mother needs money. Is that what it is? Yeah, I think that's what it's about.
Okay.
Yes. And somehow or another, he thinks by using rocking horses, he can determine who's going to be the winning horse in a race.
Oh, so is he doing like a simulation or something?
Yes, I think so. I
Yes.
think that's
It's
what
real
it is.
different. Your story's real different, I have to say. I haven't read it, but try to figure out the core of what it's about, and then take that and make it interesting. Make it interesting to you, because it's not right now. Figure out a way to make it interesting to you. And start throwing in stuff. And what if this happened? What if an alien showed up? You know, what if his mama goes crazy? You know, if you want to create some excitement, what kind of films do you like? What's
I don't know. I don't
your
really
favorite?
I don't really like watching films.
None?
No, that's why I guess that's why I don't find reading interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so you got a soccer shirt on though. So do you like soccer?
Yeah.
Okay. You like athletics a lot? Okay. So maybe there might be something, you know, it's a collaborative effort, right? So you have, your whole team should be buying into whatever idea you all settle on. But if you could make it related to something that you do find interesting, then you may be able to find a good story in that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not about winning horse races, maybe it's about winning soccer matches, you know? Something of that degree. And it helps if you're knowledgeable about that area too, because then you can add details. That the more details that you have in a story, the more authentic it is, right? The more people can relate to it, the more people can be drawn into it. Does that kind of help? I know you that story was, from what I've heard, I still don't really understand. I don't know how a rocking horse is gonna help you win a horse race, but yeah. It's creativity. Keep those juices flowing. And here's the thing, I guess I'll say this about what you're doing. So there may be things that you all like, I know I want to do this. I think that's, yeah, you have your ROTC stuff on. So you may have ambitions for the military. And so something like this, you're like, I don't get why I need to read this. I don't want to make movies. I want to play soccer. I want to do something sports related. But the truth is, the more that you're able to open your mind to creative thinking, the more it'll feed anything that you do. Especially in this day and age with like internet and how things are continuing to be revolutionized, these are all creative things that we're dealing with, right? They're all creative. Amazon and Tesla and Netflix, these are all creative entities that are thinking outside the box by using their by saying, what if this happened? What if we did this? What if we did that? So by exercising that muscle, all you guys are doing is positioning yourself to be, creative thinkers and ultimately creative leaders. Because it all matters. They all complement one another. And again, we're not singular, and they all kind of feed each other. Even if you like math and science, things like this can help. Creative thinking can help in those realms. Because you practice thinking outside of the box. I feel like I've overtalked my
We're
my
30
time.
minutes in. Thank you, Courtney.
Okay.
Okay.